everyone to gather under the tent, please. Media family, please be seated. George, why don't you sit? We are streaming the... Is it on? Yes.
Do I have to sit? I prefer to stand.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're about to begin our service. If I could ask that everyone please take a moment to make sure that your cell phones are turned to their quiet mode. Any family that needs to be seated, please do. Conducting our service today is Rabbi Jeffrey Weil.
The mourners who are wearing the Kriya ribbons, please find those ribbons. You're wearing them over your hearts. For children of the deceased, it's the tradition to wear it over our hearts. You'll recite the following blessing after me. This blessing acknowledges God as the judge of truth. And Kriya is an ancient ceremony. It goes back to biblical times when our forebears, when their times of sadness or calamity, would tear their garments, symbolically exposing their vulnerable and pained hearts. So please recite this blessing after me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet. Amen. Blessed are you, Eternal of the universe, the true judge, the judge of truth. Amen. You may tear your ribbons. You're welcome to be seated. If you like.
People in front of the camera, if you could step in that way.
Can you step this way or they can't see?
No.
Adonai, ma adam b'teva ehu, ben enosh b'techashvehu, adam v'hevel damah. Lemav kitzel over, b'boker tzitz v'chalaf, v'erev yimalel v'yavesh, tashev enosh adaka v'tomer, shuvu ne'edam. These are the words of the psalmist saying, Adonai, eternal God, what are we that you would have regard for us? What are we that you would even be mindful of us? We are all just a breath, our days a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up and is renewed, and in the evening it fades and withers. But God, you cause all of us to return unto dust, saying, Shuvu, return, O mortal ones. Would that we were wise. Would that we understood whither we go from here. When we die, we carry nothing with us, not our riches, not our glory. But God, you say, Shmor Tam Ur Eyashar. Mark the wholehearted. Behold the upright. Those are the ones who shall find peace. Friends, we gather this chilly morning to remember someone and pay tribute to someone who was Tam V'Yashar. She was wholehearted and upright. She was strong and self-reliant. The true matriarch of her family, Ethel Sarfati Rath. Esa inai el haharim me'an yavo Isri. I lift my eyes up to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, Osei Shemayim Va'aretz, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Hine Shomer Yisrael, behold, the protector of Israel, the keeper of Israel, neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian and your protection at your right hand. May the sun not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. May God guard you from all harm. May God guard your soul, your going out and your coming forth, now and forever. You'll find the 23rd Summoner Handout the inside panel. We read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The third chapter of Kohelet, or Ecclesiastes, presents a very Jewish idea that everything, even though it's sometimes hard to believe in this world, that everything is unfolding in a way that it ought to unfold. For everything there is a season, a purpose, for a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot that which is planted. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to grieve, a time to dance. A time to throw stones, a time when we gather stones together. A time to embrace, a time when we must refrain from our embraces. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep, a time to discard. A time to tear, a time to sow. A time for silence and a time to speak. So this is an appropriate time to speak words of memory, tributes of Ethel, or Ethel. On March 28th, 1920, Mayor and Esther Friedman welcomed into the world their only daughter, second child, Ethel. And they did so just a couple of days before they and all the Jewish world was preparing for Pesach, this holiday that tells our story of redemption. 1 century later, a little bit over 1 century later, Ethel passed away, as Jews the world over had just begun reading about that redemption story in our weekly Torah reading cycle. And so the span of her life was an arc. It was really a Jewish arc that began and ended with the greatest story ever told. And the intervening 100 years tells quite a story as well. It was a positive story. It was a story of strength and self-reliance, a story of commitment to community, of commitment to our people, and love for and from family. Her parents, Mayor and Esther, were immigrants from Romania and Poland. They had 3 children, Jerome the oldest, Seymour Sy the youngest, Ethel in the middle. They owned a dry goods store, and they lived above that store. As kids, the brothers were protective of their sister, but Ethel herself was strong. She was independent, self-reliant, and she demonstrated this early. There was a time when she was about 15 years old, I guess at the time a student in high school, Hyde Park High School, and her mom, Esther, visited Poland, I guess going back to where she had been born, and Ethel stepped in her mother's absence, or she stepped up in her mother's absence. She took care of the household, she cooked and more. This is not a surprise. There's a lot of responsibility for a girl, but Ethel was similar to her mother, Esther, both strong women. Ethel enjoyed the store, and she learned to sell at the store. This is a skill, and really just a natural ability that would come in handy or be exercised in various capacities throughout her life. And she learned the value of hard work. And she enjoyed accompanying her mother to First National Bank to make deposits, safety deposit box, and so forth. As protective as the brothers were, Ethel was a caring and dutiful sister. One day she was walking her younger brother to a Boy Scouts meeting, and she met there the troop leader, the young man Joseph Sarfati. This is truly an all-American story. To marry the leader of your brother's scout troop, and that is exactly what they did. They married, and they settled in the South Shore, and they built a family, and Ethel was a loving, mother to Rita, she rests in peace, and Susan and George. She was an attentive mother, an involved mother, Girl Scout leader, and so forth. The family, the Sarfati family, would have their dinners together during the week, and certainly on Shabbat as well. The family was and remains deeply devoted to the Jewish community. They belonged to Southside Hebrew congregation at 74th and Chappelle Boulevard. The South Shore, as you know, was a bustling Jewish enclave at the time, and Southside Hebrew was at the center of that bustle, and the Sarfati family was deeply entrenched within that congregation. Their life really revolved around the shul. They attended services on Friday nights and on Shabbat mornings. Ethel served as sisterhood president. Joseph was involved as well. Ethel, as she would throughout her life, she baked and she cooked for synagogue functions. And the children, Rita, Susan, and George, were educated there Jewishly through Hebrew High School, involved in USY as well. George attended Ramah. They were really an involved family for several years, becoming a lifelong Ramahnik. I know it's a trait within this family. Ethel, Joseph too, but Ethel might have been the main motivator here, really instilled in the three children the importance of the Jewish ethos of Al Tifrosh Min HaTzibor, do not separate from the community. It is an ethos that this family has adhered to admirably throughout the generation. When George, the youngest, entered high school, Ethel began working. She began as a typist at the University of Chicago Press, but she was promoted. Being a typist did not last for long. Before long, she was managing sales, and this offered her opportunities to travel, to attend conventions, and so forth. And she was proud of this professional success. Just as she had loved working in the family store as a girl, she now loved working and still selling for the press. She remained at the University of Chicago Press for many years, and then sadly and suddenly, Joseph passed away in May of 1973. The children, Rita, Susan, and George, they were already young adults and away from home, so Ethel had to really create a new life for herself, sort of move on. And so she summoned her strength, and she did that. She moved to Hyde Park, and then further north a little later, she delved into her work, and she also remained involved in Southside Hebrew, which was going through changes at the time, but she was involved in it, helping it, and it really helped her as well, with friends pulling together for her. And through that interaction with the congregation and with those friends there, she met Paul Rath, an extremely sweet man. And this is what we call Nechaya, a life-giving relationship, life-giving moment, that meeting for both of them and for both families as well, for Irene became the fourth child. The years marched on, and everyone established themselves in the world, the next generation, and then the family expanded to include Yoram, Orona, and Bob. And Ethel switched careers around this time too, working now at Paul's Business International Pearl Company in the Pittsfield building. It was a career change, yes. There's also a family change, or a lot of changes. But as far as the profession goes, there was a common thread for International Pearl Company sold wholesale, and so Ethel was basically selling some more, or selling again. The family continued to expand as Ethel and Paul became loving and beloved grandparents to Paul, Dahlia, Phil, Yolanda, Benny, Brian, Happy, and Debbie. And this big family, which would of course expand more, we'll get to that. The big family would get together for simchas, smachot, Jewish holidays, replete with the tastes and smells of Jewish food, sure, a lot of fun and noise as well. Ethel was in preparation mode for these occasions. She had long baked, as I mentioned, for all sorts of occasions, all sorts of reasons for these family get-togethers, for folks in the building, at the shul functions earlier, and she'd make, if I remember correctly, mantle bread and those which we call refrigerator cookies with powdered sugar in these tins. And she obviously expected those tins to be returned because she would stick her return address labels on them. I'm not sure if they were always returned, but that's what she... You better return. Meanwhile, the family grew more, encompassing Penny, Deborah, Kobe, Billy, Lindsay, and Eric. Ethel was keeper, this is quite literal, the family jewels. At family events, folks, I guess the women you said, would discuss their outfits, and Ethel would assess and then provide the appropriate accessories, jewelry accessories. And that is not all that she and Paul would provide. Reminiscent of the trips that she took with her mom to the bank as a girl, in later years, her trips to the safety deposit box would yield bills, big bills, 50s, 100s, that made it into maybe the less safe hands of grandchildren, along with the admonition, shh, don't tell your parents. Okay. Okay, thank you. Throughout her long life, Ethel was blessed, really blessed with relationships, positive relationships. Blessed with 2 successful, good marriages, blessed with this large and ever-expanding family, blessed, of course, with a family that expanded, including now a new generation, great-grandchildren rather, 17 great-grandchildren. It's like new leaves on a tree. Ethel is also blessed with a dear friend, a best friend, for well over 90 years, Noma, friends since they were 5, 6 years old, Noma a year older. That truly is a lifelong relationship. They both now rest in peace, as Noma passed away recently too. They spoke a few months ago, 2 centenarians, strong women. The Exodus story is full of those strong women. Yocheved, Moses' mother, who placed him in the Teva, the little ark, and sent him on the waters. The midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, strong women, but none more. The daughter of Pharaoh, also a strong woman, but none more remarkable than Miriam. Miriam, who like Ethel had 2 brothers, and she, like Ethel, according to our tradition, was strong and resourceful and self-reliant, really, and loving. And it was by Miriam's merit that the Israelites had water throughout their desert wanderings, according to the Midrash. Our rabbis called it Miriam's well. And it followed, according to the tradition, it literally, well, metaphorically, or it followed the Israelites during their 40 years of wandering, providing them with water, supplying them with life-giving water. You also had a well, in a sense, Ethel's well. And it really followed you, or has followed you, through many long years. According to the Midrash, Miriam's well disappeared when she died. But Ethel's well will continue to follow you. It supplies not water necessarily, but it is still life-giving. It is a Yerusha, it is a legacy and an inheritance for you. It supplies a legacy of strength and of self-reliance, of success, mandel bread, refrigerator cookies perhaps, and most importantly, love, which continues to hold this family together and will in the future. May her memory be for blessings. Zirchana Livracha. Amen. George?
After hearing everything the rabbi said, this is somewhat the abridged version of what you just heard. My mom was the daughter of 2 immigrants who came to America to build a better life. She was definitely her mother's daughter. As my mother grew older, I realized how similar my mom and my bubby were. We were both self-reliant. We were both great cooks. We were independent and organized. They both had careers. My grandmother took care of the business end of the family dry goods store. My mom loved to work with people and sell anything including merchandise in her parents' store. The books for the University of Chicago Press, or pearls for Papa Paul. They both married twice and outlived their husbands. They both lived long, productive lives. My mom loved everything Jewish. The show, her friends from show, Jewish education, Jewish holidays, and of course, Jewish cooking. During the past few years, we talked a lot. I heard many stories over and over again. She talked about her parents, what she did and what she shouldn't have done growing up, her involvement with the show, her career at the University of Chicago Press, working in the pearl importing business. We talked about family. We had many loving moments and fun times. I am left with wonderful memories. May her memory be a blessing.
Stop.
Well, dearest Ethel, I'm going to speak to you directly because I know you're listening. In the words of Frank Sinatra, you did it your way. You remained in your own home until the very end, at the magnificent age of 100, sustained by the people who loved you, by the joy you experienced daily as you would look north and east through those large windows, looking at the park, the lake, the sailboats, and people and families just walking around, and being able until this past year to go shopping and to go walking through the neighborhood, more recently with your four-wheeled friend, all part of the independence you so cherished. You wanted nothing to do with assisted living places, with senior citizens centers, or old age homes, which your parents and your generation called Meisjeskeinen. But even nice ones like Lieberman, or worse, typically at the end of life's journey, nursing homes. And you deserved every minute of those simple pleasures and of that independence which you so fiercely demanded. Your days were bookended by those early morning calls from Susan and 5 p.m. calls from Rini, your third daughter for the past 42 years, all to just talk about stuff, about the family, and most importantly, to make sure you were okay. Ending each call with mutual I love yous. This past week, Irene has said to me on more than one occasion that she feels a hole in her day when 5 o'clock arrives, and I'm sure Susan feels the same in her mornings. You were looked after by your personal Debbie squad, Little Debbie and Big Debbie, who were there for you and for whatever you needed. Together, morning, noon, and night, and by Phil and Little Debbie operating as a team. Can anyone say enough about what both of them did for you over the years, and especially over the past decade? And for that, we will forever be grateful. And George, Arona, and Brian, whenever they were needed, and Happy, whom you adored and who adored you, always making sure to frequently call you and to visit you whenever he was in Chicago. And me, while I wasn't your biological son, for 42 years I sure felt like we were truly mother and son. And I know you felt that way too. And to say that we had a special relationship would be an understatement. You came into our lives as Papa Paul's second wife, yet there was an instant warmth and affection which quickly grew into unbridled love as we observed who you were and what you did for and with him and for and with us during your wonderful 20-plus year marriage and for another 20 years thereafter. That covered us with a blanket of love and bound us, Debbie, Eric, Eden, Avery, Happy, Lindsay, Noah, Shai, and Isla. And even our best friends, the entire Icebart family, Ben, and Sharon, Yosh, and Jake. And even Debbie's best friend, Michelle, and Barry Dorman, who often asked about you and loved to schmeichel with you. Into the Love and Adore Ethel fan club. In a word, you were Papa Paul's precious gift to our entire family. You know all this, which is why we always included you in all family simchas, starting with Happy's bar mitzvah in Masada in 1979, extending almost to your 100th birthday, only cut short by COVID. Significant birthdays, weddings, holidays, even vacations. For Remember my 60th birthday in Montana or Kiowa Island? Or thanks to Debbie and Happy, Barbados, on the occasion of our own 25th anniversary with the icebergs, when on a double dare you challenge one evening after some imbibing, you took the challenge, albeit G-rated, and jumped into the pool fully clothed, followed by Papa Paul and the rest of us. Indeed, that part of you, playful, irreverent, and fun-loving, brought out the kid in Papa Paul that had been buried since childhood in Germany, squelched by Hitler, his war service, and the immigrant struggle to rebuild his life in America. And for that, we have been forever grateful to you, for it added quality, joy, and laughter to both your life and ours. And I know you haven't forgotten our vacation in Italy in 2005, again with the entire Icebard family, when on a side trip to Assisi and a climb up to the exceptionally steep path to reach St. Francis's Cathedral, you ran out of gas halfway up. At which point I got behind you, placed both my hands on your tush, and pushed you all the way up to your hysterical laughter and squeals of delight. So what was it about you that drew all of us to you and made you an inseparable part of our lives? The poet Wordsworth wrote in The Excursion, "And when the stream overflowed the soul and passed away, a consciousness remained that it had left, deposited upon the silent shore of memory, images, and precious thoughts that shall not die and cannot be destroyed." So how many of those memories, images, and precious thoughts will always remain with us? How special you always made us feel. How easy it was for people to look at you as a confidant. How you related to people on their own levels. Your non-judgmental nature. How easy it was to be with you. How you were ageless. Your spirit of adventure. How you were always the leader of the kitchen crew during the holidays, especially Passover, Rosh Hashanah, and Thanksgiving. And of course, as has been said, your mandelbread, schnitzel, and salmon patties. Your giving and loving nature, and how things were never about you and always about the other person. So, when the chill of the winter and today, and of this moment, yields to the warmth of springtime and hope, we'll remember you, Ethel, and you will be with us. When, God willing, we have more joys and achievements and simchas to want to share, we'll remember you, and you will be with us then as well. And at the holidays, we'll remember you, and you will be with us. So, Ethel, as long as we live, you too will live. For you are now, as you have been, a part of our story.
Thank you both. Vedaki Reshit, Shirat Tachlit, Chayim Kamasahim, Halichat Smicha, Ishalav Shalav. Birth is a beginning, death a destination, but life is a journey, a going and a growing from stage to stage. And the long, good journey of Ethel has now reached its conclusion. As we honor her with El Malay Rachamim, the memorial prayer. Kaddish will come later in the service. El Malay Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamatzei Menachon Nechona, Tachat Chatzei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Rakim Asirim, Et Nishmatz, Itabat Meir Esther, Shahalcha La'olama, Ba'al Harachamim Yasireha, Ve'seter Kanafa La'olamim, Ve'yitzur B'tzur HaChaim Et Nishmata, Adonai Panachalata, V'tanuach B'shalom, HaMishkava, V'nomar, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence with the holy and the pure, who shine like the glow of your firmament, to Ita Bat Meir Esther, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence and within the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Atzur tamim palo kol derech mishpat. El emuna be'in avel tzadik v'yasharhu. Atzur tamim b'chol po'al liomar lo ma'al hashalit b'ma'atov ma'al v'mitu m'chayeh barit sha'ol v'ya'al. Atzur tamim b'chol ma'aseh liomar lo ma'ta'aseh tzadik eta Adonai l'hamid l'chayot asher b'yadcha pidyon kol ruchot chalila lecha zichronenu v'imchot. Yuna inecha barachamim, aleinu b'kuchot, ki lecha adon harachamim b'hasikot. God is sure, our immovable rock. All God's work is upright. Who can say, what is it that you do? The Eternal governs what is above and below, overseeing both the valleys of death and the heights of life. God is sure, our immovable rock. Who can say to God, what will you do? You are righteous in your dealings in both death and life, and every soul is in your trust. Amen. Place soil from the land of Israel, Arpah, Nehar, Zitim, from the Mount of Olives, into the grave of the Jew, representing really the age-old Jewish hope in a messianic world and a better future for all of humanity. Shalom, and she come to her eternal home to shalom and peace. Amen. a moment, we'll recite Mourner's Kaddish, after which I'll ask everyone who's here to support the three mourners, those who are wearing the Kriya ribbons. You'll repeat words after me, expressing traditional words of condolence to them, and then you have the opportunity to put 3 measurefuls of earth into the grave. It's traditional to, after you've done so, to put the shovel back in the plot of earth for the next person as an affirmative act to take it for herself or himself. Some also use the back of the shovel for, if you choose, for one or more of the measures to show that this is no ordinary act, but rather a sacred act. Catherine has gloves, plastic gloves, COVID protocols, unless you have your own gloves, of course, I guess, right? Which I guess everybody does. So, but if you don't, we have plastic gloves, so you can take that as you handle the shovel. Oh God, help us to understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is a measure of love which is stronger than death. Though we mourn, in our hearts may we be like children who know that their ultimate parent is near, and who cling unafraid to the trusted divine hand. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to us into your keeping, as we now repeat the words hallowed by generations, Mourner's Kaddish. Yitidal v'yitkedash shemei Rath, ve'amad ivra pirotei ve'amlich malchutei, ve'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chaei b'chol beit Yisrael, va'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba v'barach, la'olam u'lamei amayam. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaled, Yitalal, Shmei Kusha, Rihu, Ela, Minko, Birchata, Bashirata, Tushbachata, Benechamata, Da'amiran, Da'ama, Bimaru, Amen. Yehei Shalom, Morab, Aminchma, Bechaim, Aleinu, Be'achol, Yisrael, Bimaru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Bimroma, Huya Aseh Shalom, Aleinu, Be'achol, Yisrael, Bimaru, Amen. Zichronah, Dibracha, for memory, for blessings. Now please, everyone, repeat these words after me, speaking to the mourners. May God console you.
May God console you
With all who mourn.
with all who mourn
In Zion and Jerusalem.
in Zion and Jerusalem.
Hamakom yinechem etchem v'tov sha'avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. Now go forth in peace unto life. Amen. Okay, Susan, Irene, and George, would like to come forward first. Sure, that's right.
Tell the part about how we used to wash dishes together and do that all the time. And after the holiday meal, you used to go to the kitchen and you'd be the cleanup. Anyway. What? No, but that was, she enjoyed it so much, I know, at that time.
Others are welcome to come forward.
There is a shovel on the other side of the mound. We can have 2 people participating at the same time. We'll ask anyone else who would like to participate to please come forward.
No, I was. No,
was
because
having the
what
phone
he
soon.
said was so eloquent,
I was-
nothing more needed.
I was making sure that
He
her,
was-
her kids in Israel could see it here. That's what I was doing.
No, I think it was,
No,
he was amazing.
I just want a copy of it. That's what I wanted.
Where is he?
Wait, right.
Where does he live?
no, she never did.
What?
Yeah, we put grandma, we asked for grandma to be next. Your dad and Sadie's
I wanted to get from his shoulder. And then I said to myself, I guess whenever I had my last one, I didn't say the way she wanted to hear it. So I don't know.
Our services here are now concluded. In just a moment, the gentlemen from the cemetery are going to complete the burial with the equipment. If you would like to remain and witness the closure of the grave, you may do so. If you find this unsettling in any way, we would suggest that you return to your cars at this time.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's.
Is there a GNI card in the Chicago area? I'll check with our friend Ben to see if he's on forever on a little otherwise.
And she wanted to choose couple of words. Bill said, no, she's a director. I don't care. Yeah, exactly. I said, this is about